Xenoblade Chronicles. This was a review I never planned on doing. As a lot of you know, I'm not a big fan of real-time fighting in RPGs. I prefer turn-based titles. But I decided to give this game a try just like I did with Tales of Symphonia. And I have to say I had a lot more fun with this game's battle system than I ever did with Tales of Symphonia. Originally Nintendo wasn't planning on releasing it and a couple other titles to America. I guess they thought it wouldn't make enough in sales in America to bother to bring it here. So there was an internet campaign called Operation Rainfall, which surprisingly lit a fire under Nintendo's proverbial seat and made them take notice. And they decided to go ahead and release it to America. The story itself has a very unique backstory, as the worlds you are walking on are actually the corpses of two dead gods that were fighting it out to the death. Somehow a thriving world was created on their bodies, and people flourished on them. Unfortunately, their lives are in jeopardy by another race of beings called the Mechonis. With the help of the legendary sword named the Monado, they were able to stop the attack and save their colony. The main character's name is Shulk, and he's a scientist working on the secrets of the sword. While off on an errand with his friends, the Mechonis attack again. So Shulk uses the power of the Monado and the ability to see into the future to help him defeat the bad guys once and for all. Alright, I'm sure there are a few people out there saying, wait, I think you skipped over quite a few things in that plot summary. I wanted to keep it as vague as possible when it comes to the actual plot, because I like people to be surprised. And trust me, there are quite a few surprises just an hour into the game, so I'm not going to spoil them for you. The graphics look fantastic for a Wii game, especially when you get into the more open areas of the game a few hours in. You can really feel the depth and scope of the world that you're exploring. That's not to say that it's perfectly rendered though. There are a few times where there are pop-ups on the trees in the background, and occasionally when you're battling a lot of enemies, the frame rate would get very choppy. Battling is done in real time, where it will auto-attack your enemy normally, or you can do one of many special attacks. And I like the fact that you could switch where each of the buttons would reside. So if you want to keep all your defensive buttons on one side and your offensive attacks on the other, you could do that. The only limitation on using these extra skills is the time you have to wait to use them again. They vary from skill to skill, so you can upgrade the levels on them, which not only increase their power, but also cuts down on the time it takes to refresh them. You're going to need to be smart when fighting the enemies, when using special attacks, because in order to get the maximum amount of damage, you're going to need to be in the best position they tell you the attack is best suited for. So for example, if it's a backslash, you're going to want to be behind the enemy when you do this special move. That doesn't mean you have to do it this way, it just won't get maximum potential from the attack if you don't. What I really liked about this game is that it's very friendly to the players. Not only is your hit points quickly replenished by just walking around, but if you die, the game doesn't penalize you at all. Whatever experience you had before you died will still be with you when you respawn by the nearest checkpoint. So this takes all the frustration out of being killed, and I liked that. It made it more fun to progress through the game because I didn't have to worry about losing progress because I screwed up one fight. Now because there is no real consequence for dying in the game, I was more willing to branch out and explore the huge world this game has to offer. But you could easily get lost if not for two things. One, there is an arrow on the top of the screen telling you where you should go as long as you're in the correct area. And two, they give you the ability to quickly warp back to any checkpoint that you've been to before at almost any time. So you don't have to worry about trekking back to the store to buy more equipment. You could just get back there with a couple easy button clicks. The same goes for the side quests. And trust me, there are a lot of them. I think there's about 500 of them, and almost all of them are optional. There are 3 different ways to adjust your character to your personal likings, from the skill upgrades to the affinity system to putting stat adjusting gems on your clothes. Luckily this game does a fantastic job of explaining everything, and the tutorials themselves are available to read at any time in the tutorial section. As much as I love this game, there are a few minor problems with it, like the menu system itself. It's a bit confusing, and the equipment menu was just the worst. They didn't give you the option to optimize your characters in the best armor, so you're going to have to do everything. And it can get frustrating to have to go through every piece of clothing and decide if it's worth it or not, because you get clothing quite often in this game. Plus the side quest lists should have been way easier to read. It was just really poorly put together. Plus I wish their camera actually had done some of the work. I didn't like adjusting the camera all the time, and occasionally the camera would be locked and I wouldn't be able to see my character while fighting. I wish the camera would lock onto whatever I had targeted. I couldn't count the number of times where I wasn't sure where the enemy I just targeted was. However, none of these things were deal breakers because I really enjoyed the story. Sure, it's not as deep or as overly complex and ridiculous as some of the Final Fantasy games out there, but that's not a bad thing. Xenoblade Chronicles is a fantastic RPG. I can easily say it's my favorite RPG on the Wii right now. The only possible usurper to that is the last story, which is coming out in June. So I can't wait to see if that one's better than this game, because I'm really looking forward to that one. The graphics in this title look amazing. The story was engaging and battling enemies was fun and quick. Right now I'm about 15 hours in, and I can't wait to go back and play it again. So I can easily say you should buy it now.